Namaste and greetings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I'm Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, the founding minister and spiritual director. If you ever have questions about who I am, who we are, what we do, what is Spiritually Integrated Arts? What is a teaching center? What is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is metaphysical spirituality? What is New Thought? Science of Mind and Spirit? How do I become a member? How can I support, tithe, and donate? All of these questions and so many more. Send an email. You have two options. SIA, Spiritually Integrated Arts, admin at spirituallyintegratederarts.org, or spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com. Either of those will work. You can also visit our website, www.spirituallyintegratederarts.org. Now, you may be wondering, where else can I find and follow? There are several other social media platforms that you can also subscribe and follow. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube channel, where you can also find all of our Sunday messages and more. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I look forward to you being a part of this beloved community. Because we are a virtual community, it doesn't matter where in the world you are. This can also be your spiritual community, because you can have more than one. Anywhere that you feel supported, anywhere you are spiritually fed is home, is community, is relationship. So I look forward to dialoguing more, conversing more, getting to know you. Much love and appreciation. Live long and prosper. Chat with you soon. Take care. Hello and welcome. This month, June, there will be 2 days that we are gathering on Zoom after the Sunday message. June 4th and June 25th. Make a note. This is a great opportunity, a time for us to come together, to fellowship, to conversation, to do all of the fun things that we do when we come together as beloved community, sacred community. If you don't already have the Zoom link, send an email. You have two options. SIA, ADMIN, Spiritually Integrated Arts, admin, at spirituallyintegratederarts.org, or spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com. Once you send the email, the link will be sent to you. Once again, we will be meeting only 2 Sundays this month. Make a note. If you don't already know, Wednesday night from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Science of Mind and Spirit discussion group gathers to discuss what is Science of Mind and Spirit and how do we apply it. We take to heart what Ernest Holmes said at the site in the Silomar when he spoke the Sermon by the Sea, and he said, "Show me 1,000 people who know what religious science is, how to use it, and are living it as a way of life, and we will see a different world." In other words, a world that works for all. So on Wednesday nights, we discuss, what does that mean? How do we embody it? And how do we live it? Thursday night, the study group that reviews the Sunday message questions currently meets 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. However, the new time as of July 6th will be 7 to 8:30, same time as the Wednesday night group. For either of these groups, if you do not already have the link to join, send an email, once again, to SIA admin@spirituallyintegratederarts.org or spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com, and the link will be sent to you. Now, if you are ready, we're going to jump into the theme for June, embracing self-care. The evolution of self-care. Since its discovery, the evolution of self-care has taken several turns. When self-care started in the medical field, it pretty much meant what it means today. Patients in the 1950s were advised to engage in activities that allowed them to see, to understand, and to embrace their self-worth. These activities and the awareness gained from these activities help the patient to cultivate healthier, life-affirming habits, such as eating healthier, exercising regularly, and also in reducing any of the unsupportive, any of those non-life-affirming habits. Those were reduced. Those things that were detrimental to their well-being were reduced. As time went on, the term self-care began to be used in other fields, such as the civil rights movement, which encouraged the practice of self-care in order to continue the pursuit of equity and justice. Breathe. Self-care. 8 areas of self-care: physical, psychological, emotional, social, professional, environmental, spiritual, and financial. What are you doing in any of these 8 areas? What are you doing in all 8 areas? Are you doing any of the things that are mentioned? Physically, are you eating a healthy, life-affirming source of foods? Are they even available, or do you live in a food desert? Are you resting? Are you eating well? Are you reading? Do you journal? Do you join in support groups and gather with friends and people who are life-affirming and nurturing? Do you have clear boundaries? Do you know when to say no? Or do you always say yes? Do you meditate? Do you journal? Do you pray? Do you walk? Do you have effective money management skills? Any and all of these. What are your go-to things to take care of yourself? What do you do in all 8 of these areas? Dr. Holmes said, people's first discovery was their ability to think, to plan, and to execute, or otherwise to take action. To think, to plan, and to take action. That was the first discovery, according to him, of humanity, of people. Someone way back when, I could think of things I never thought before, and then I planned to go out the door. Anyway, to think, to plan, and to take action. Now, regarding that, when we think about it, what does it mean for each one of us to think, to plan, and to act? If that is the first discovery, and theoretically each of us is continuing to discover and rediscover, what does it mean to think? What does it mean to plan? What does it mean to act? Especially when we have the phrase to treat and move your feet, recognizing that the mental equivalent must consciously and consistently be engaged. Actually, it already is. Question is it aligned with what we desire to experience? Now, that being the case, think about it this way. What are you thinking at any given moment? What are you planning at any given moment? What are you engaging in terms of actions that you are taking at any given moment? Even when it's something as simple as you're making toast,
What is that? What are you making toast? What is the reason? And why do you make toast the way you make toast? Is there a reason that it's, some people like Tracy likes nice, dark toast. Ray doesn't really like that kind of dark, burnt. Tracy likes burnt toast. Ray doesn't really like burnt toast. Is there a reason? Do I know the reason why I prefer my toast to be this versus what Tracy prefers? When planning a trip, Tracy and I may be planning a trip at any given moment to New York. Well, what are we planning to do? When are we planning to leave? When we're packing the suitcases, what are we putting in the suitcase? And what is the reason? All of these things at any given moment, are we aware? Because if we're not aware, then we are operating based upon some other programming that we've been given, that we learned through osmosis, through indoctrination, through blah, 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 domestication, all of those things. So our invitation is to get really clear. What is our mental equivalent? What are my thoughts? What are my words and methods of communication? What are my emotions and feelings? What are my actions? What am I doing and being in the world? And for some of us, we're like, I don't know, Reverend Ray, I don't know. Start with, when I look at my actions, then I am able to discern what I have been or am currently thinking and or feeling. Because the things that we do are based upon what we are being. And what we are being is based upon the alignment with whatever our mental equivalent may be. If we're going to effectively take care of ourselves, then does it not serve us to know what actions we are engaging in that are not life affirming, not self caring? That there are actually some things that we do that are more harmful and detrimental to our physical body, our emotional selves, our intellectual selves, our relationships, our finances, etc. If I can't identify the actions that are harmful, can I change them? Is that not why the first step in AA is recognizing that you have an addiction to alcohol? Hello, my name is, and I'm an alcoholic. Is that not why that's the first step? Because you have to see the behavior, the actions, in order to change them. Now, that being the case, let's explore. What does it mean to change your thinking? That's one of the ideas that we were talking about, since that first thing was think, plan, act. Think. Now, thinking, we're using it as a general and generic term, in the same way that we will say Q-tip is a brand name, but it is a general term for anything with the little cotton swab on the stick that you put in your ear to clean your ear. It's Q-tip, right? The more specific term is changing my mental equivalent. Okay? And we're going to talk about, well, what does it mean to change it in each of these areas? What does it mean to change your mental equivalent regarding your physical, your psychological, your emotional, etc.? When it gets to professional, both your vocation, because some people no longer have a profession, they may be retired. So then your avocation. I don't particularly refer to stuff as hobbies, but the things that, because you have your professional work life, and then you have the other things that are, it's not your job, it's not your career, but there are things that you are interested in and things you invest your time, effort, and energy into, your avocation. So regarding profession, vocation, avocation, changing my mental equivalent regarding each of these areas. What does that mean? What would that entail? In order to know that, I have to know, well, what is my current social experience? Describe my relationships. What kind of relationship do you have with your sons, Ray? Do you like the relationship you have with your sons? Is there something regarding your sons that you would like your relationship to be that it currently isn't? How much control do you have over bringing that about? Because some things, it's on the other person as well. How much control do you have regarding that? Well, what about other family members? What about neighbors? What about your relationship with Tracy, et cetera, et cetera? If I can't adequately and effectively talk about it, describe it, then how clear am I really of the discovery of self in order to know, what do I want to change? What do I want to be different? What do I right now actively and consciously want to experience in my life? Gain clarity. Dr. Holmes says, my body is not conscious of life, but my thought is conscious of my body. But my thought does operate upon my body. In other words, the thoughts we think affect the chemistry of our bodies. Now, that being the case, let's ask then, regarding your body, what is your mental equivalent? Do you love your body? Do you appreciate your body? Do you take care of your body? Do you nurture your body? What are the thoughts that you have regarding your body? What kind of words do you use in describing your body? I'll give you an example. So, as you may or may not know, I recently had surgery, April 25th, getting my prostate removed. As a result, there are 6 incisions in my abdomen. As a result, haven't been able to exercise or do any of the physical things I would normally do, which means my body has lost muscle mass, I've gained weight, there's still a little bit of swelling in the abdominal and groin region as a result of the surgery. When looking in the mirror, do I, quote unquote, curse myself, my body? Oh, I look fat. Oh, I look ugly. Oh, those scars are. Oh, is this ever going to go away? Blah, 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 blah. And if I catch myself going down that rabbit hole, do I know it? Am I able to catch it soon enough so that as soon as I start to go down the rabbit hole, I'm like, no, 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 boop, and I can grab and pull myself back up? Or do I boom and fall all the way down the rabbit hole, hit the ground, and realize, oh, I could have stopped this 55 minutes ago. I could have stopped this line of thinking, this train of consciousness 4 days ago, but I didn't. But I just now caught it. I just now discovered, now that I have thought that, now that I have understood that, what is my plan to get back up out of here? And then how am I going to act to get out of here? And how am I going to act once out of here? What are the words? What are the feelings? What are the emotions? What are the actions? Do you treat your body with kindness? Do you give it exercise? Do you put lotion on? Do you massage? Do you stretch? Do you, whatever it is, what is your mental equivalent regarding your body? In the grand scope of our culture, there are many, normally it's referred to as fat phobic people, body shamers, people who look down on and talk poorly about and badly about, and it's said abuse and it's said bully, and people of a certain size. It's one reason why I truly appreciate Lizzo for the work, simply living her life, but for the advocacy that she puts forth in who she is being, her mental equivalent based upon who she is choosing to be and what she chooses to experience in her life. One of the things she says, I think it's lazy for me to just say I'm body positive at this point. It's easy. I would like to be body normative. I want to normalize my body and not just be like, oh, look at this cool movement. Being fat is body positive. No, being fat is normal. I'm going to do my thing. No apologies. Are you able to do your thing without apologizing for your size? Are you able to do your thing without apologizing for your whatever it is? Are you able to live your life? Are you able to align with a mental equivalent? Are you able to think, plan, and act accordingly to experience life on your terms the way you desire to? Reverend Chris out at Celebration Center CSL recently shared a blog being fat in New Thought. And one of the things she says, and I encourage you to go to the link and read the whole thing. But one of the things she says is, the other day someone told me about a minister in New Thought who would talk about our power to manifest our lives and create our reality. They would then stand up in the pulpit, look out over the congregation, and say, "So why are you still fat?" That's body shaming. Why is that in New Thought? Reverend Chris goes on to say, do we create our reality? Yes. Do we single-handedly create every single thing that happens in the entire world, even the parts that we can see or that affect us? Absolutely not. We do not affect. We do not consciously. My thoughts are not create. You understand what I'm saying? We have seriously over exaggerated this whole thoughts become things thing. Now, why is she saying that? Because we have oversimplified. Thoughts are things. Change your thinking, change your life. No, you change more than just your thinking. Your entire mental equivalent must think, plan, act. Thoughts, words, emotions and feelings and actions. All of that comes into play. And because it's not just me here creating, you're creating, they're creating. Wouldn't you like to create? Everybody's creating. That's why we have a collective consciousness and an individualized consciousness. We have group consciousness, etc., etc. And each of these are playing a part in the think, plan, act, in the effective manifestation of the world we currently live in. So the question is, what role are you playing in that? What amount of accountability and responsibility are you taking in terms of that? Not just how do I create or recreate my own individual experience for my life, but how do I also create effective change in the world? For example, recently our Supreme Court has undone some legislation regarding effective care of the earth and clean water and such. What is mine to do regarding that? Do I send the justices an email or a letter expressing to them how disappointed I am that they would place this above the priority of, do you understand that by doing this, this entire group of people will no longer have access to clean water? Or do you not care? What is mine to do regarding that? Because if I simply sit back and it's not mine to do, it has nothing to do with me, then I am forgetting what Mamie Till Mobley said when her son, Emmett Till, was murdered. You know, living up in Chicago, I used to think what happens to those black folks in Mississippi is their business. It has nothing to do with me. So my son was lynched, and I realized what happens to any of us anywhere had better be the business of all of us everywhere. What is my role as a 21st century New Thought Good Samaritan? How do I engage individual consciousness, group consciousness, and collective consciousness to shift, to heal the world? One, do you know who this guy is? No, he's not a hippie just because he has long hair. That's a judgment. Do you know who he is? Do you know this phrase in Latin? So, Rene Descartes, the phrase, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. We've all heard that before. But what about Reverend Ray Remix? Because what I would say to him is, I got that. I think, therefore I am. However, but what am I also feeling, saying, and doing? You get the theme? You get your mental equivalent is extremely important. It is vital that you get clarity and effective stewardship of it. It is not just what you think. And I know we simplify it to that, but it is not just what you think. What are you talking about? What are you praying about? What words are you using to create and co create? Words, thoughts, etc., are the form that spirit and molds into and creates. So we got to take into account, what am I thinking? Because I can think one thing and feel something that's not in alignment with what I'm thinking, and it's also not in alignment with what I'm saying because I don't have an integrity regarding each of these, which means I'm actually in alignment with something. Breathe, because our invitation is to get in alignment consciously, constructively, life affirmingly, to manifest accordingly. And it begins by caring for ourselves. Some think, I think, therefore I am dangerous. I think, therefore I'm single. I think, therefore I am awesome. I think, therefore, what? My mental equivalent is such that I am what? My thoughts, my words, my feelings, my actions are such so that I am what? When you fill in that blank, what are you filling that blank in with? Are you filling it in to such a degree that you are able to say, as this young person is saying, Om Tat Sat, Yod He Vav He, I am that. I am ever becoming. I employ and embody my mental equivalents and steward my life effectively and masterfully. I am my own guru, Bodhisattva, Christ. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahma. Is that what your mental equivalent is aligned with? Breathe. Let that sink in. Because we live our lives as though our conditions and experiences determine our perfection. As Dr. Holmes says, I am perfect no matter what my appearance may be. I am perfect no matter what the conditions may say. I am perfect no matter what the experience may be. I am perfect and I am experiencing grief. I am perfect and I am experiencing oppression. I am perfect and I am experiencing trauma. I am perfect and, both and. And it is through understanding this perfection, God, this perfection, the divinity, this perfection, the thing itself, gives me the ability to take the trauma, inform through my spirituality, and heal. Oppression, address it and heal. Whatever it is, when my mental equivalent is aligned as such, then my self-care kicks in, and then I change the way that I show up. Breathe. One of the other forms of or areas of the 8 self-care, one had to do with our emotions. Emotional intelligence. How emotionally intelligent are you? Emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, to control, and to express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously, effectively, and empathically, or empathetically. Breathe. How emotionally intelligent are you? Now, we're not going to stay on this. I'm not going to read all of this. You can always come back and revisit it. But psychologist Daniel Goleman was one of the first people to propose this idea of EQ, emotional intelligence, right? In his book, Emotional Intelligence, he breaks down EQ into 5 components: self-awareness, self-regulation, internal or intrinsic motivation, empathy, and one's social skills. So as you go through these 5 components, ask yourself, in what way am I stewarding? In what way am I aware of? And what way am I living my mental equivalent in alignment with self-awareness? How self-aware am I? This is the ability to recognize and understand your moods and emotions and how your moods and your emotions affect others. How self-aware am I? Etc., etc. Self-care includes becoming, think of it as martial arts, moving from a white belt to a brown belt to a black belt, white belt to a yellow belt to a green belt to a blue belt to a brown belt to a black belt. It's the progression through, the advancement through, wax on, wax off, paint the fence. I know karate. Or as Neo said, I know kung fu. You learn it through the process of. Are you actively engaging in the process? Or are you simply moving through the system of the collective? Just, I'm on the hamster wheel. I'm on the hamster wheel. My life is blood, blood, blood. I'm on the hamster wheel. Is that what it is? Then is it not time through self-care to step off the hamster wheel? To have a direction that you want to go? Emerson said, to be yourself in a world constantly trying to make you something else is a great accomplishment. But what does this mean? To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else. What is the world trying to make you? Well, in order to understand that, we have to think, what is the world, collective consciousness, trying to make you? What is the something else? Because regarding things like when you think of oppression and bullying and trauma and all of these things, what is it related to? Race, gender, one's ability, one's culture, one's language, one's sexuality, all of these things. And people try to force us to comply. They force us to conform. They force us to become some form of homogenized, normalized, internalized, whatever it is. Now, what does that look like? It can very easily look like indigenous peoples forced into boarding schools and forced to become Americanized. The first boarding schools for indigenous children were set up starting in the mid-19th century, either by the government or by Christian missionaries. Got that? The purpose of these schools was to eliminate traditional American Indian ways of life and to replace their culture, their language, with mainstream American culture. In other words, white Christian colonized culture. That's what it looks like. Now, you may be thinking, well, that doesn't apply to me. Well, in this teaching, it doesn't. Is New Thought in alignment with the collective consciousness of Christianity? Would they not rather we all be what they are? To worship how they worship, what they worship? So, in some ways, this idea of colonization has touched all of us. Looking at this, do you know what this is? The hula. Recently, I watched an episode of a reality TV show called We're Here, where three master drag queens travel to various small towns around the world. And recently, they went to Hawaii. And in a moment where they were all doing the hula, one of the narrators, whose name I don't recall them even sharing, but if I'm not mistaken, it was the one person in the front, one, two, three, four, the fifth person from the right side of the screen, immediately to the right of the person in the red dress in the center. I believe it was her voice. And she said, there was a time when the hula was banned. It was illegal to dance. Colonization, conformity. This isn't normal. It's not. Okay? To be yourself in a world where you are constantly being nagged and pestered and traumatized to be like. There was a time when it was illegal. There was a time when it was illegal to dance. And so I always say, every time we chant, every time we dance, somebody in our lineage never stopped dancing or chanting, because it was there, I will not stop, that brought the chant to me, that brought the dance to me, so that we could be here. They resisted. And also within our culture, so many Mahu people, LGBTQ people, are the ones who were the story keepers throughout time and space. And someday, somebody's going to look at the way we continue to tell these stories, and someone's going to say, I see me in this moment, because representation matters. So, how do we resist conformity when that, whatever that consciousness is, wants us to surrender and relinquish who we are? You're fat, you should weigh this. You're too dark, you should be light like this. I don't like your hair, it should be like this. I don't like your sexuality, it should be this. I don't like your religion, it should be this. How do we continue to be the story keepers for our stories? Audre Lorde says self-care is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And that's only a smidget of what Audre Lorde actually said. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. But why would it be political warfare? Why would it be political warfare? Now, political has nothing to do with what side of the aisle. We're not talking about that. Political means that you are not relinquishing your power. See, marginalized groups become marginalized because whatever that dominant culture and consciousness is, colonization, it uses its power to subjugate, to oppress, to demand through the use of violence, oppression, etc. Power. So if we are going to understand what this actually means, then we have to understand that power is the capacity of individuals or groups to determine who gets what, who does what, who decides what, and who gets to set the agenda. The Supreme Court. Who gave them the power to deny people clean water? Who gave governors, wherever they are, the power to ban books, the power to deny effective education of history? Who gave people the power to ban drag shows and drag performances and drag queens? Who gave them the power? Pause. Because the next series of slides, once again, we're not going to go through each one of them, but I strongly invite you to come back, pause, and read. Pause and read. Now, you can't pause right now because we here doing this right now, but come back, revisit it. We strive to resist and challenge coercive power, right? How do we mobilize this idea of transformative power? And within our teaching, there's a different kind of power that we're going to get to in a moment, but revisit these and how power is being referenced. And then ask yourself, how am I doing this work? What is mine to do regarding this work? Because what we say is there is a power for good in the universe. So regarding our teaching symbol, the all that is the circle, right? God, a circle, circumference, nowhere, center, everywhere. There is a power for good in the universe, and it is greater than you are, right? So that circle is larger than the triangle at the bottom, which represents the individualized expression. So the circle is larger, it is greater than the individualized expression. And Dr. Holmes says, there is a power for good in the universe greater than I am, greater than I am, greater than you are, and you can use it. Yes, that is true. And Reverend Ray remix, however, there is a power for good, and it is the universe, which is both greater than you are, and it is what you are. And you are always using it because it is incarnating as you. You can't unuse it. You can't not use it. It is you. You can't undivine yourself. You can't ungod yourself. You're it. Now, whether or not you choose to use that power in that way, knowing I am the divine, can Superman be unsuperman? No, he can put on the Clark Kent garb and walk around like he's Clark Kent forever. Never fly, never use heat vision, x-ray vision, never do any of that. But that doesn't change who and what he is. Peter Parker may never don the Spider-Man suit, never sling another web. Doesn't change. You still have those powers. They're still there. You can't spiritually magnificize, awesomeness. You are awesome, you are magnificent, you are beautiful, you are powerful, period. Because that which is the infinite and absolute awesomeness, beauty, and power is individualizing itself, is expressing itself as you. Always has been, is right now, and forever will be. So the question is, are you living from that awareness? Are you caring for yourself from that awareness? Especially when it comes to one of the other areas of the 8, relationships. How are you taking care of yourself in the scope of your relationships? Robin Williams once said, I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. Ending up alone is not the worst thing. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up being around people, being with people who make you feel alone. Alone in a crowd. You are in a family of 1,000, and yet, because you are the LGBTQ person forced to live in a closet, you feel alone. You have great power, and yet you feel alone. Great ideas, and yet you feel alone. Great empathy, and yet you feel alone. Because there is no connection. There is no camaraderie. There is no love and nurturing. So, what are you doing to build relationships, to build loving and supportive relationships, community, which is relationship building, friendships? What are you doing? The Hawaiian word, ohana, family. There's another word, which I can't remember right now, which is specifically referencing family of choice. Are you choosing your family? If your biological family, your family of genetic origin, if they can't love you the way you want to be loved, then find new family. It's one of the things that happens in the LGBTQ community all the time. We adopt one another because we are a communal species. We need love. We need support, communication, cooperation, collaboration, compassion, all of that stuff. We need it. So build it. Take care of yourself enough to build it. Build the connections. Build the relationships. Hug folks. Love folks. Talk to folks. Share your time with people. What kind of relationships do you have with others, with yourself, and with God? But more importantly, what kind of relationship do you have with others, with self, and with God as God? It's the idea of there is no need for us to pray to God, so we pray as God. So recognizing that when we are in relationship with anything or anyone, it's not simply Ray in relationship, it's God in relationship with. So how am I stewarding those relationships, those connections? How are you? Rumi says, stop acting, playing so small. You are the universe in ecstatic, vibrant, powerful motion. Stop acting, think, plan, act. Stop acting, stop behaving so small. So if we're not going to play small, be small, act small, then what are we going to do? Be big, be bold, be beautiful, be audacious, be powerful in all of these areas. So, what does it mean for you to be big and bold and beautiful physically, psychologically, emotionally, within your relationships, within your vocation and avocation, environmentally, spiritually, financially? What does it mean for you to be big, bold, beautiful, brave in all of these areas? How do you nurture and support that? How do you care for all of these areas of God incarnating as you? Reverend Ray says, that's me. If the goal is happiness, if the goal is love, if the goal is health for self and others, we must start sowing those seeds. We must take care of ourselves and be caring and supportive of others, not just those that we know and like. We must care for ourselves so powerfully that our presence stirs in others the desire to evolve, shift, and heal. Contagious with the divine. Self-care is not simply caring for the individual self, it is caring as the absolute self, and that means all of God. Because when you know that, it changes how you do love. It changes how you do connection. It changes how you do everything. It changes all of that when it's from that realization. Breathe. This week's declaration, our affirmation, I will say it first, and if you feel in alignment, say it with me on the second go round. I mindfully fill my cup to overflow. Pause. You may have heard me say this before. I love this phrase. I drink from my saucer because my cup runneth over. I drink from my saucer because my cup runneth over. I mindfully fill my cup to overflow with the love of who I am. Together. I mindfully fill my cup to overflow with the love of who I am. And so it is. This week's journal questions, spiritual practice questions, and Thursday night discussion questions. Number one, in what ways do I play small? In what ways do I try to allow the conformity to affect me? In what ways do I allow colonization to affect me? In what ways do I allow whatever that is to try to, quote unquote, normalize me? In what ways do I play small? What is the reason that I do that? And what can I do? What will I do to change that? And what does that look like for me? Number two, what do I currently do that is the opposite of self-care in those 8 areas mentioned? What do I currently do that is the opposite of self-care, physically, emotionally, professionally, psychologically, etc.? What do I currently do that is the opposite? That is self-detrimental, that is non-life-affirming in these 8 areas. Number 3, what daily practices will pause because it's important. Once again, we can't change what we will not acknowledge, so we have to acknowledge it in order to change it. Number 3, what daily practices will I engage in to honor, to nurture, and to love myself more by filling my cup to overflow? And number 4, one aspect of self-care is recognizing your inherent value. So list 4 things that you appreciate, 4 things that you are grateful for, 4 things that you love about yourself. Breathe as we go into that space of prayer. Simply anchoring to this great and glorious divine breath that brings us right here, right now, present. Knowing that as this word is spoken, this word is the truth of my being. And because there is no simple I that is separate from anyone, that there is only God, then what is true about me is true for and about everyone. So this breath anchors me in this present moment where I acknowledge the divine love of creation that is incarnating as me, and I care for it. The divine power of creativity, and I care for it. I take care of it in the same way that I care for a plant that is just beginning to grow through the earth, a new puppy or kitten that can't quite take care of itself per se, so it needs someone to feed it, to bathe it, to nurture it, to help it to become strong enough so that it is now self-sustaining. I tend to and take care of my creativity, my inspiration, my love, my relationships, my physical body, my mind, my heart, my soul, all areas of my life. I tend to them. I nurture, I love and care for all areas and aspects of my life. And even the areas that I may not like. I don't necessarily, me specifically, I don't necessarily like the fact that there are times when I am triggered and my comfort food is sugar and sweets. I don't necessarily like that, but I bring love to it so that it happens far less. Will it still happen? Possibly. But I can love myself through it. When I look at myself in the mirror and I don't necessarily like the scars, I don't like the swelling, I don't like some of the changes, but I love myself through it. So that even with the scars, I can love me. Even with the changes, I can love me. I care for me. And not just the me that is Ray, but the me that is God incarnating as through with me. And as I said, what is true in these words about me is true for all. And the law recognizes that and says yes. It says yes, which means this word, this Sunday message, all that was shared, the law says yes. That means it is already done. It is already answered prayer. It is already now. It is already here. I tell my story based upon being a story keeper. And the story that I tell is I am that. I am ever becoming. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the Brahma, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature. I am it and ever becoming more of it. And so are you. The law says yes, and it is done, and it is now, and so it is. Namaste, blessings, much love and appreciation. I will chat with you soon in Zoom. Take care.